Welcome back to Inside Games, the only channel brave enough to invade your game and maybe not kill you right away.
Yeah, maybe. See?
You're going to.
Your gaming lords can be merciful.
Yeah, we're back with more hot tips and tricks for Deathloop, this time focusing on the game's PvP features.
Yeah, Deathloop does PvP completely differently from most games, and it actually creates a really cool and unique experience, but it can take some adjustment if you're expecting a more traditional competitive experience. Luckily, we're here to ease the process for you.
Yeah, whether you're playing as Colt, you're just trying to move on with your day like I was always doing,
Yeah.
Or you want to shut down other players' hopes and dreams as Juliana, which I assume you were doing.
Oh yeah, significant amount.
We got all the info to help you get what you want out of Deathloop's PvP.
Yeah, we'll start with Colt's perspective first, since it's the one you'll be experiencing first when you play the game.
That's right, yeah.
And then later we'll switch to Juliana's specific tips and strategies.
All right, let's start with the anti-Juliana tips. First off, a quick note on the modes. If you're getting near the end of the game and you really don't want a sweaty tryhard barging in and preventing you from seeing the ending, just put the game in single-player mode, and that way you won't get invaded by friends or randoms or anything like that, which is what I did. I was just like, single-player mode, I don't want to touch anybody else.
Doesn't protect you entirely. You will still get invaded by an AI-controlled Juliana.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the game, and it's part of the story. And as you'd expect, the AI-controlled Juliana isn't quite as bloodthirsty as human opponents tend to be.
Well, yeah, of course. Killing Juliana can give you tons of trinkets and upgrades, and one slab upgrade, which is super nice. When I did it a couple of times, most of the time, I just got scared. I was just like, I don't want to touch this.
Intimidating.
Yeah, no, I just ran away.
Either way, Juliana is one of the visionaries, and you're going to have to deal with her eventually.
So here are some tips for the Colt players out there from Juliana's perspective.
Yeah, so first off, this one might be obvious, but the easiest way to avoid Juliana is to actually avoid her, to just not engage at all.
That's exactly what I did. It's actually really difficult to find Colt when he doesn't want to be found. So if you just stay crouched, use silent guns, disturb as little as possible, like the NPCs or anything else, you can just navigate the game's maps without being found.
Juliana does have a few tools to find Colt in a match, but really it's up to the ruckus that Colt creates that draws Juliana there.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you move really quietly and you avoid leaving a trail, I'll talk more about that later, it's pretty easy to just completely avoid Juliana, do what you need to do, and get out of the map.
And when it comes to staying out of sight, if you're trying to avoid Juliana, stay off the rooftops. That's not what I did. I was on the rooftops, and I think I got invaded when I was on the rooftops. And I was like, oh no, what do I do?
It's pretty easy to see Colt when he's out on top of everything.
Yeah.
Especially since if you're trying to monitor the map, you're usually somewhere high, like looking down on stuff. So if Colt is double jumping out in the open, pretty easy to see him against the open sky. But if you dive down into the alleyways or move through interiors instead, makes it a lot harder to see you at any kind of distance.
We would just recommend just stay high if it's just AI, then swing low, get sneaky if like an actual Juliana pops in.
Yep.
All right, so let's say you don't want to be stealthy or you got found out. Lawrence, what do you do next? Do you fight? Do you flight? What do you do?
It might depend on your build. I kind of found if I had a stealth-oriented build, running away is totally effective.
Yeah.
It's fight or flight.
You feel like a bitch though, Lawrence.
Kind of you do. Yeah. But you still stay alive. And if you're trying to progress the story, sometimes victory is not conquering everything in your path, it's hitting your objectives.
It's true.
So if you're Colt, and especially if you have Shift or Ether, you can pretty much get away from Juliana whenever you want. Both of those powers allow you to break line of sight, and if you break line of sight and you just kind of kink off in one direction and don't make any noise, it's really easy to shake off Juliana. Even if she's found you and has shot at you a little bit, you can still just get out of there. Yeah. The rewind puts you pretty far away, and you can just go somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah.
And Colts have done that to me, and it's really frustrating.
So if you actually want to fight, there are a couple of baseline techniques that can help here.
Yeah, having multiple lives cuts both ways. If Juliana manages to take a life off you, you rewind, you could just leave. Or you could run right the fuck back as fast as possible. So when you do your encounter, if you can make it back really fast, you can pretty much just resume the fight right from where it was. And you might even get the first shot because she's probably looking for you too. Hopefully you can stumble upon her before she sees you.
Right.
She won't know what direction you're coming from once you rewind.
So what if she's not there anymore?
Ideally, if you did damage her, she's probably healing.
Okay.
So, there are those fizz pop recovery stations that you can just suck health out of.
Yeah.
If you fought near one of those, she probably just went to there to go heal.
Got it. Hey, so speaking of flipping aggro, let's just put on our Juliana hats. So here are the actual PvP tips for Juliana.
Juliana, you want to ruin somebody's day. Good for you. You want to protect that loop and prevent Colt from taking everyone out.
They basically like sanctioned real trolls in this game.
A little bit. The reward structures actually kind of incentivize being a creative troll.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get to that in just a second.
And also remember that Colt gets a reward for killing you. You could end up being a reverse troll.
That's true. Yeah.
Because then they're trolling you to kill you.
That's right.
The game's reward structure incentivizes a good show with creative use of slabs, environment interactions over killing Colt as quickly and ruthlessly as you possibly can, which is what I did. I was just trying to get rid of him. I don't want to do a cat and mouse because I didn't feel confident in my own abilities.
Yeah, you get there, but yeah, the way that you progress as Juliana is at the end of every match you get these like point bonuses specific to what you did in that match. And if what you did is just run up to Colt and shoot him, you actually won't get that much progression.
Yeah.
But if you spend a long time and kill him creatively and do a bunch of other stuff, use a bunch of different powers, you'll level up way faster, get more upgrades to play with, and really broaden your tool set.
Yeah. The result with that approach is win-win. If you win, that's great. And if Colt wins, then you just made someone else's game a lot more exciting. That's a really nice way of looking at it, Lawrence. Not the way I look at it, but it's a nice way of looking at it.
I like to think of myself as a bit of a game cuck. Even if I'm losing, that means somebody else is winning, and I feel good about that.
Honestly, that's a very positive spin on it. That's very nice of you, Lawrence.
I meant to lose. It's fine.
Anyway, the mindset in-game is different, too, since you're actually hunting Colt.
Yeah, as we said before, it's generally not really in Colt's interest to make himself known or to seek out an encounter with you as Juliana. Some players do, because people like shooting, and people are just psycho. This game has driven that home more than anything. They're just unpredictable.
Yeah.
They do whatever. Anyway, more on psycho players later, but I tended to find that PvP matches, whenever I would invade somebody, kind of settled into 3 loose phases. There's the prep, the hunt, and then the fight.
So we'll start with the prep. When you invade another Colt's loop, you'll spawn near the central tower that Colt has to hack to open up those tunnels for him to just leave if he wants to leave.
And that middle location actually has tunnels and hallways that sort of feed out to all the main pathways through the map. So it's really centrally located, and once you kind of figure out how that flow, you can get around really fast. It's great.
So if you're just starting out as Juliana, we recommend taking a few rounds, just walk around. Since you've done the Deathloop so many times as Colt, you're used to the Colt spawn, and that Juliana spawn is completely different.
Yeah, so the good thing is, and this is part of the mental prep, is remember that the stakes are low when you're
that's
Juliana.
Great. That's great.
If Colt finds you, then great. You got a PvP match on your hands. You're going to do a lot of hunting for him later, so just enjoy the random gunfights that happen to break out. Otherwise, if you're really just kind of poking around in a map and kind of learning the flow of the map and where pickups are and stuff like that, you still get point rewards and advancement just for being in matches for a certain amount of time and surviving.
Oh, okay.
So if you poke around in a map for 20 minutes just to learn it and Colt escapes, you still get bonuses just for that.
That's great. Once you feel comfortable with how you can flow through a map from your spawn location, you'll realize you can get to most places on the map before Colt can. And this is something I noticed every single time I was invaded.
Yeah, it was even like a kind of a plot point, which was kind of fun. So that means that as Juliana, you can set up scouting locations or set traps for Colt before he gets there. You spawn with 4 grenades that can also turn into trip mines or proximity mines. So for me, the opening minutes of a PvP match became a great time to set up mines in sneaky locations.
I ran into so many mines from invading Juliana's. You're the worst. You're the worst game cuck in the world.
But it turns out trying to predict human players is entirely
impossible.
It's pretty impossible.
Yeah, it's really, really hard.
There's also Masquerade, which is a unique slab you get as Juliana for PvP that lets you exchange appearances with an NPC. So you can just kind of walk around and pretend to be a normal NPC. Jeez. Masquerade is mostly free. It takes 1 bar of energy, so you might as well disguise yourself. Just be aware that offensive actions will undo Masquerade. Placing mines doesn't count, though. Oh, using shift does. So I found a couple of times when my Masquerade would just be gone and I wasn't quite sure what I did to get rid of it. It was mostly shift.
Oh,
just blinking around.
You're setting all those traps at the beginning, but now you want to actually go out and hunt the most dangerous game.
Exactly.
So let's move on to the second phase, the hunt.
Again, you have human players coming in, and since you can play Deathloop in so many different ways and so many different builds, it really just means that players are going to come in with a unique style that you're not ready for.
I was going to say, you have no idea what they're carrying.
Yeah,
None.
So you just have to kind of observe and learn. And just play styles in general, too. Somebody might go into a map and all they want to do is like crouch and look around and like read lore and stuff. I've had 30-minute cat and mouse games that kind of end in a really satisfying sniper shootout. And then I've had like a 3-minute match where a Colt just like sprinted directly into my face and stabbed me in the neck.
Wow.
And that was it. Just blink, blink, and I was gone.
So a loud Colt, really easy to find. Obviously,
Yeah.
That was always the way I played. I'd run in, start shooting. That does not make for good invasions, because then I get smacked, because I got all the AI and Juliana looking at me.
Yeah. When you're playing as Juliana, the AI will put an indicator on the screen indicating that they've alerted to something. But they alert to the thing that they're alerted to, not to where they think Colt is, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
So if he throws a bottle all the way across the room and it makes a sound over there, that's where the indicator's going to be.
Got it.
And he could be somewhere else. So
that is the name of the game when it comes to trying to find a stealthy Colt or a really good Colt. You may not be able to find him sneaking around the map, but you can definitely see where he's been if you know what to look for.
Yeah, and this is the fun part. Is after a while I started to realize, wait a minute, I'm tracking. You know, putting 2 fingers to the ground, testing in the dirt.
Yeah.
Sniffing the wind. That's basically what it is. So you're basically looking for all the evidence that a Colt has been somewhere.
Yeah.
That's missing guards, open doors, hacked cameras, hacked turrets. These are all pretty telltale signs that Colt has passed through that area already, which gives you some circumstantial information about where he's been and maybe where he's going. So remember those mines we talked about in the preparatory phase?
Yes,
So
yes.
those are valuable even if they don't go off. I started placing mines in very narrow hallways and choke points, so if Colt goes through there, he has to deal with it somehow.
Yep.
So we'd either disarm them or detonate them, or if he has ether, he can just walk past them, which is annoying. But either way, I would start doing just like cycles around the map, and then if I saw my mines were gone, either they'd been blown up or disarmed, I knew Colt had gone through there.
Yeah, of course.
Pretty simple.
There are a few places on the map where you're more or less guaranteed to find Colt. Entrances to visionary bases or areas typically have one spot of visibility that if you camp long enough, you'll definitely find them. So if the Colt wants to actually do the visionary,
Yeah.
if they're not running away.
Thing to be aware of there, you're kind of relying on the player and their tempo of playing the game.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so I've had players come into a map and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play this smart. I'm just going to camp the visionary. And I waited there for 20 minutes for a player to, I don't know what they were doing. And then I left and like 2 minutes later, visionary's dead. Maybe they were actually watching me. I don't know, just waiting for me to get tired and leave.
That's exactly. They were probably just waiting you out because they're
Maybe
just
they
like.
were.
Because that's what I would do if I wasn't going to leave. I would just sit there. I would just literally just stand in a corner, cross my arms, and be like, "I'm not going to do this. Like, I don't want to get killed." I mean, really, every Colt is different. Obviously, just like every human is different. So part of the hunting process is learning what kind of player you're dealing with. Which is ironically just like an actual hunt.
It says she's on the hunt in the game, and I never really appreciated that's literally what they meant.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so let's say you've actually found Colt. You've had you know, fingers to the hand, touching his
right now.
sniffing the wind. So now it's time to kill him 3 times in a row. Maybe the AI took some of them for you.
Yeah.
But, yeah, killing him 3 times actually could be pretty difficult.
Yeah. So here are some tips to help you kill Colt. This is the fight.
This is it, yes. I tended to find that most Colt fights, they either took place at sniper range, really far, or really close quarters. All the mid-range weapons, the SMGs and the rifles, in PvP settings, they didn't really seem to have that stopping power. I would put a full SMG clip into Colt and he'd be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't make a
I'd
difference.
start to reload, I'm dead.
Yeah, that's right.
So it kind of makes sense that it sells out to extreme range or shotgun range, basically.
Yep. Sniping is really, really straightforward here, especially since you'll usually have the first shot. And a few more while a confused Colt tries to figure out what's going on.
They do throw off a huge, like, scope glint in the game.
Yeah.
So don't use them to look down paths of travel, or you'll likely give yourself away. I did that in there early on. But the real chaos, and this is where Deathloop is its own beast entirely, is close quarters combat. You can get some ridiculous kind of top 10 anime battles going on with both characters are using powers and explosions going off. It's crazy.
Yeah, being in close quarters is extremely dangerous for Juliana since you're subject to the same melee kill rules as everybody else. So if Colt gets a couple of chops on you, you're out. You're dead. And that's what makes life exciting, isn't it? Wow,
Yes,
I really like
sure is.
your positive outlook on PvP.
Because after a while, you start to understand winning isn't everything, especially in Deathloop. So,
Yeah.
which kind of plays into the story too, the way the characters interact and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In terms of weaponry for close quarters combat, you know, it's the shotgun. It's always the shotgun. So the auto shotgun, the upgrade straight shooter, hipster, and lightning strike. Basically accuracy, more damage at range, and being able to fire from the hip. It just turns the shotgun into a cannon that just annihilates at close to mid-range. I killed Colt every time with that thing.
Okay.
Just and he was dead.
You just charge right at him and fire over and over.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you have to actually hit Colt for all of that to happen. And he has tools to make that difficult. He does.
Yeah. So it's hard to appreciate how disorienting shift can be when somebody else does it. Colt can just leave pretty much at any time, which again, really frustrating.
Yeah, of course. Here's a tip again: if you're going to engage with Colt and he turns on ether, just freak out. Jumping, shifting, running. He's going for a backstab.
Yeah.
So that's it. You're done. He gets that backstab and you're gone.
The first time I felt so stupid because I was like fighting Colt and he went invisible and I was like, where'd he go? And then like a knife just popped out of my chest and I was like, oh, there he went. That makes sense.
But like we sort of teed up in the intro, playing as Juliana is way more fun, and you progress faster if you just experiment with your powers. Trying to toss Colt off a cliff with Carnesis instead of just shooting him until he dies, that sort of thing. I mean, that's what I was doing with the AI, just even in normal death loops too. It was just fun. It was just fun to do. Yeah, it's just fun to ragdoll them.
Yeah, ultimately, our PvP advice for Deathloop is to think of this mode as sort of more of an immersive sim PvP hybrid.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be way more fun to just dick around and see how the world reacts to you than to really try to win really hard.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fun, and that really reflects the sort of personalities of Colt and Juliana. They have this weird sort of joking relationship while they're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And I think you develop that with other players since you're kind of like toying with them a little bit as Juliana too.
So sometimes it's about watching the world and other players react to you as it is imposing your will on everything.
And I think the reward structure in the game is a pretty tacit acknowledgement that they meant the game experience to be that way.
Of course, yeah. So again, thank you very much, Arcane Lion, for making Deathloop, and Bethesda for publishing it and sponsoring this video. Otherwise, Lawrence wouldn't have been able to kill so many Colts.
So many. See you next time, Colt.